Hey, I'm Robert. This is my new series called Dirt from the Dungeon. This here is episode number 2. Still no intro because I haven't felt like it. So, let's talk some dirt. The Ernie Ball Music Man John Petrucci signature Majesty has climbed to the number 2 signature guitar model on the planet. The Gibson Les Paul, of course, being the all-time number 1 signature model. I don't think anybody's ever going to overtake that. But the Majesty is now number 2. That's actually pretty impressive. That is correct. The Majesty has now surpassed famous signature models like the Ibanez Steve Vai Gem and the Brian May Red Special. Neither of those are at the top of the mountain anymore. Now it's John Petrucci and the Majesty. Now, many of you know I happen to own one of these guitars. This one happens to be my very, very favorite guitar of all the guitars that I own. The first time I played one of these things, absolutely amazing experience, and I had to have one. I can absolutely see why these things are so popular because they are incredible instruments. If you haven't had a chance to check them out, you really, really need to, and then you too will understand why this is now the number 2 signature electric guitar model on the planet today. By the way, this is a finish called Goldmine, which is kind of hard to find. Congratulations, John Petrucci. Congratulations, Ernie Ball Music Man. Job well done, and you absolutely earned it. Tim Henson was in the news recently. Tim Henson, guitar player, I think it was only like 27 years old, guitar player for the band Polyphia, I think is the name of his band. He did a spot on, he did a roundtable discussion on Rick Beato's channel here recently and kind of managed to stick his foot in his mouth when he referred to boomer bends. Now, the term boomer originally started out as an abbreviated term for the baby boomer generation, the older generation, and there was never really meant to be any harm behind it. Now, eventually, the meaning of that term was what became used to describe members of that older generation who are being critical or overly critical to the younger generations, particularly millennials, whether it was warranted or not. And as such, has kind of since evolved into an insult toward the older generation. Now, I, as a member of Generation X, are sandwiched in between these two generations of baby boomers and millennials, and I am going to present this opinion from that perspective. Now, Tim Henson clearly meant no harm by describing this particular guitar playing technique used by the older generation as boomer bends. Clearly, no harm was meant by that at all. Meanwhile, after Tim Henson said this, guitar players all over the world suddenly felt like they were being violated with a watermelon by Tim Henson. Now, look, I agree he probably should have used a better choice of words. But at the end of the day, is it really worth getting bent out of shape over? He, number one, he never said anything, that he didn't like it. The particular style he's talking about. He just said that, he prefers to use a newer, more modern style of playing. That was what the conversation was about. Meanwhile, in doing my due diligence, I wanted to make sure that I did the proper amount of research on this topic before turning on the camera. And let me say this, after watching some YouTube videos, I still don't know what the fuck a boomer bend is. I certainly don't know what a boomer bend versus a non-boomer bend is. Reverb has released its list of the top 20 best-selling electric guitars of 2021. Fender has managed to dominate this list with 13 spots. 13 out of 20. Now, it's important to note that not all of these guitars are brand new. A lot of these guitars are being sold on the used market, such as number 20 is being listed as the Fender Standard Stratocaster from years 98 to 2005. So that's your old made in Mexico Standard Strat. Also, the American Standard Stratocaster, the year specifically 1986 to 2000. And then most of the rest of these appear to be new, such as the Fender American Ultra Telecaster, coming in at number 15. Let's see, the PRS CE24 number 13. That's a good guitar. The Squier Affinity Series Stratocaster at number 11. The ESP LTD EC1000 at number 10. A couple different Les Paul models at 8 and 9. The PRS Silver Sky John Mayer signature at number 3. And the Fender Player Series Stratocaster and Telecaster round out the list at number 2 and number 1. I will post a link to the list on Reverb down in the description so you can go check it out yourself. Pretty cool stuff. Interesting to see that Fender has dominated the industry here over the past year. I think a lot of the popularity, I think, probably comes from their branding and namesake alone. But I think it's also important to note, I personally have noticed a lot of younger players in particular have really gotten into Strats and Tellies, and particularly the offset models, the Jags and the Jazzmasters, over the last couple of years. Solar Guitars have added 9 new guitars to their lineup. And these all look to be pointy guitar models, which is right up my alley. I'm a pointy guitar guy. However, that said, I've never actually been able to get my hands on a Solar guitar. Ola England, if you or anybody from Solar Guitars happens to see this video, I would love the opportunity to demo one of these on my channel. I hear nothing but great things about these guitars, and I have to admit, they certainly look phenomenal, and the recordings I've heard from other channels that have them all sound pretty good too, and solar guitar owners that I know rave about them. Now we got some more pointy stuff to add to their lineup, which they look pretty cool. The more guitars that a company can add to its lineup, that's usually a sign that a company is doing pretty well. Hats off to Ola England Solar Guitars. Robert Cray has announced that he has ended his friendship with Eric Clapton, essentially over political differences. Now, I don't want to get too far down into the weeds in this because I see both sides of it. But Robert Cray is quoted as saying, read this so I can get it right, said, "I'd just rather not associate with somebody who's on the extreme in being so selfish." My understanding is this is all over basically, differences in opinion on the vaccine. The COVID-19 vaccine, that is. Eric Clapton is known to be fairly conservative and not necessarily a believer in the vaccine. Robert Cray, I believe, is on the other side of that. And while I certainly wasn't there for the conversation that caused this, they apparently had a pretty strong disagreement with each other. And Robert Cray has decided that he is no longer friends with Eric Clapton. And honestly, it's too bad, man. We're talking about two blues guitar legends that have been playing together for decades now, and it's a shame that something like this has come between two guys who've had such a strong bond over the years. I've experienced this here recently with my own some of my own close relationships. With people that I have known for many, many, many years in our political differences, and and I've been on the Eric Clapton side of this. I'm the one who has been cut off, not who has done the cutting off. It is just sad. It's just sad that it's come to this, man. It's okay to be on one side of the aisle or the other, and it's okay to have differences and opinions on all of these. On whatever topics might be at hand, that's what makes us different. The inability or the unwillingness to work through them, I think, is what makes this really, really sad. But for some people out there, disagreements happen. As soon as it gets hard, they throw in the towel. And honestly, I think that's again, while I certainly understand and respect Robert Cray's opinion on the topic at hand, I think this is taking it a little far. So that is it for this edition of Dirt from the Dungeon. Honestly, I am still testing the waters on this particular series. I decided to do this episode because another episode for a demo that I had planned, all my recording equipment completely failed on me, and I had to think quick. So you guys are getting another edition of Dirt from the Dungeon sooner than expected. I would certainly love your opinions down below. Let me know if we should continue on with this series. Honestly, I still have not decided yet, but I have to admit it has been a lot of fun, and it's excuse for a nice quick video that you guys seem to appreciate. Anyway, so comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.